All right. So you sent me this document, this PDF, and the title is Golden Dawn, Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Hexagram.
Yeah.
And I got to say, this is pretty out there. So are you ready to dive into the world of ritual magic with this one?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm fascinated by this one. One of the things that struck me right off the bat is that it's clearly assuming the reader already has some experience.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, it jumps right into banishing planetary influences.
Okay.
And then it mentions that should only come after learning to banish the elements.
Oh.
It even mentions the LBRP.
Okay, so it's assuming we're already pretty far down this this rabbit hole.
Right, exactly.
So for the sake of our listeners who maybe aren't as far down there, can you back up a little bit and just explain what the LBRP is and why banishing is such a big deal in all this?
Sure, yeah. So the LBRP stands for the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, and it's like a fundamental ritual, in a lot of these different systems of magic. It's sort of like
Like a prerequisite almost.
yeah, it's like learning your scales before you try to compose a symphony.
Okay.
You really can't get anywhere without a strong foundation.
Gotcha. And what about banishing? Like, why is that such a core concept here?
Well, it's kind of like, before you start working on some big project, you clear your workspace, you get rid of all the clutter,
Right.
so you can really focus.
So we're talking like energetic clutter.
Exactly, yeah. It's about creating this purified, controlled space where you can do your magical work without being, influenced by all kinds of
Interference.
Yeah, interference and unwanted energies.
So what kind of unwanted energies are we talking about here? Can you give an example?
Well, think about it like this. Imagine you're trying to concentrate on some really complex task. And there's like loud music playing and people are constantly interrupting you.
Yeah, that's not a very productive work environment.
No, not at all. And those distractions are kind of like unwanted energies in magical work. They just throw you off balance.
So banishing is all about creating that like optimal mental and spiritual environment.
Exactly.
So you can focus on the task at hand.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. One thing I noticed in the document is that it talks about having to learn even more advanced rituals before even thinking about using magical weapons.
Oh, yeah.
Which seems to suggest there's a definite hierarchy here.
Definitely. There's a progression, like you said. It's like you have to master the basics before you can move on to the more advanced stuff.
And what about these magical weapons? Are we talking like swords and staffs and things like that?
Well, sometimes, but often they're more symbolic. They represent different aspects of the practitioner's will or intention.
Okay, so it's not so much about the physical object itself, but more about what it represents.
Right, and how the practitioner uses it. A magical weapon is only as effective as the person wielding it.
So it all comes back to training and refining your inner abilities.
Exactly.
Before you even start thinking about external tools. Okay, so this is all super interesting, but I'm curious about this specific ritual, this lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram. What actually happens?
Well, it's all laid out pretty clearly in the document. You start by facing east, and you perform the Kabbalistic cross, just like in the LBRP.
Okay, and for those who might not be familiar, what is the Kabbalistic cross?
Oh, right. So it's another key ritual that's common to a lot of magical traditions. It's often used to invoke divine energy and establish a connection with the divine, sort of aligning yourself with that higher power.
So it's not just about banishing that.
No, it's also about invoking specific energies.
Okay, so what happens next?
Then you trace the banishing hexagram of fire.
Okay.
Visualizing it in front of you in gold.
Well, hold on. Gold. Why gold?
Well, gold often symbolizes purity, enlightenment, even the divine. So it suggests that you're not just banishing fire, but invoking this higher, more refined aspect of it.
Interesting. Okay, so you visualize this golden hexagram of fire, and then what?
Then you vibrate the word Ararita.
Okay, so you say it out loud.
Yeah, but it's more than just saying it. It's about really feeling the vibration of the word.
Interesting. Okay, and is that like a word of power or something?
It is, yeah. It's a very powerful word in these traditions.
Okay, and what happens after that?
Then you make the sign of silence.
Not that.
It's basically a gesture where you put your finger to your lips, like you're shushing someone.
Okay.
It's about emphasizing the need for focused intention and inner stillness.
So it's about quieting the mind.
Exactly. Creating that receptive space for the ritual to work.
Okay. So then what?
So you've done the banishing for fire facing east,
Right?
and then you turn to the south,
Okay.
and you do the banishing hexagram of earth, still vibrating Ararita each time, and then west for air and north for water.
Oh, wow. So each element has its own specific hexagram.
Yeah, it's all very specific and structured.
So we're using visualization, sound, and gesture
Mm-hmm.
to really charge these actions. This is a lot more intricate than just waving your arms around.
So absolutely.
There's a lot of intentionality behind it.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you've done all 4 directions, then what?
Then you return to the east,
Okay.
perform another Kabbalistic cross,
Wow.
and the ritual's complete.
Amazing how each step builds on the last,
Mm-hmm.
creating this complex web of symbolism and action. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, the document also mentions another ritual, the Middle Pillar Exercise by Israel Regardie.
Oh, yeah.
What can you tell us about that one?
Well, it's another very powerful technique for balancing and harmonizing the energies within the practitioner's own being.
Okay.
It's kind of like, strengthening your core
Mm-hmm.
so you can withstand the forces you're working with.
So you're preparing yourself internally before working with external energies.
Exactly.
And is this like a prerequisite for doing the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Hexagram?
Not necessarily, but it can be very beneficial. The document seems to suggest that it's a good idea to explore it further.
Okay, well, that definitely gives us something to think about. So we've explored a ritual that's designed to banish planetary influences, create a purified space for magical workings, and even cultivate inner strength.
Right.
And we've uncovered how it uses a specific sequence of actions, symbols, and even vocal vibrations to achieve these goals.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing how much depth and complexity there is to these practices.
It really is.
What are your thoughts on all this? And for our listeners, what are your thoughts too? We would love to hear your reflections on this deep dive, and maybe this will spark another exploration into related magical practices. Until next time.
It is really incredible. And, I'm left with a kind of a lingering question, like if these rituals are all about creating a specific mental and spiritual state, what does that say about the relationship between our minds and what we perceive as this external reality?
That's a great question to leave us all with.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.